What's going on, guys? So the Echo series has came and went. With all 5 episodes releasing at once, we got a chance to binge the whole thing. So, let's get into the review. Episode 1 starts with some kind of pool of glowing water in a cavern. All of a sudden, a bunch of tattooed people emerge from the water and they're all naked. Marvel just basically showed full frontal. Well, kind of. One of them, a girl named Chafa, drinks from the water and her tattoos start glowing Avatar style. Then, the cavern starts to cave in on them, and she transports them all to a field where they seemingly become human. As it turns out, this was a story that Maya's cousin was telling her when they were kids. A bit later on, Maya and her mom are driving through the rain when the car's brakes give out and they get T-boned. Maya's mom dies from the accident and Maya ends up losing a leg. In the hospital, Maya's father William is talking with Maya's grandparents and says that he knows who cut the brakes and that they're taken care of. But clearly, someone has it out for him. Eventually, he and Maya move to New York where she learns karate as her dad starts talking with some guy in a tracksuit, which I'm assuming is from the Tracksuit Mafia, a gang that William runs at some point. We go to present day where Maya's training in a gym. She goes back to her dad's shop where Ronan is killing all the Tracksuit Mafia guys. And this is the scene from the Hawkeye series where William gets killed. Sometime later, she gets caught by police trying to steal a motorcycle, but Kingpin shows up and takes her from them. Then he offers her a job. She goes with a couple guys to a warehouse to kill some of Kingpin's competition. And they kick some serious ass, until they get an unexpected guest, Daredevil. Daredevil and Maya have an intense fight until Daredevil just disappears. Then, Kingpin takes Maya under his wing, and we get a montage of her rise to power. She has the run-in with Ronan, as we saw in the Hawkeye series, and he tells her that Kingpin wanted her father dead. So, she ends up shooting Kingpin. 5 months later, Maya goes to Oklahoma, back to her grandparents' house, and starts having visions of Chafa. She enlists the help of her Uncle Henry to take out one of Kingpin's operations at a shipping warehouse there in town, but he refuses to help. Then we find out that the Kingpin is still alive. Episode 2 begins in 1200 AD in Alabama, where a bunch of Native Americans are playing some kind of stickball game. And by the way, let me just mention that the opening credits look like a Bond film opening. So I don't know if that was intentional or not. Anyway, Maya gets her cousin to help gather supplies for her mission of taking down Kingpin's operation. She jumps onto a moving train full of his henchmen and breaks into it James Bond style. And then she finds something inside of a giant case, but we never figure out what it is. When Maya goes to leave, her prosthetic leg gets caught in the joints between the cars, and, having another vision of Chafa, Maya's hands start glowing, just like hers did. After this, she's able to free her foot. As her cousin drives up in the truck, she dives for it, and they get away. Meanwhile, back at Kingpin's shipping warehouse, Zane, one of the Tracksuit Mafia guys, is having a shipment unloaded when there's a huge explosion. As it turns out, her Uncle Henry actually runs the warehouse. Surprise, surprise. Maya goes to her grandfather's shop and he fixes her prosthetic leg. And after that, she has a meeting with Henry and basically asks him to choose a side. Episode 3 starts off in black and white, like an old silent film, as it talks about a Native American police force called the Light Horsemen, who existed in the 1800s. One of the Light Horsemen had a daughter named Tulko, who apparently was a badass. As she wanders through the forest, she finds the pool of glowing blue water. Then, some cowboys attack her and some others, and she shoots them all. Back to present day, as news of Maya being back in town spreads around, her grandmother isn't too happy about it. I guess the grandmother thinks she's just like her father, and she hates her father. Meanwhile, Maya has yet another vision of Chafa. This one looks a lot like the video from The Ring, for some reason. Suddenly, Maya is kidnapped and taken to the skate rink that Henry runs, where she gets tied up. We then find out that Henry's been tied up too, and it's revealed that Vicky, a guy who works at the skate rink, actually works for Zane. Well, kind of. Maya's cousin Bonnie shows up to the skate rink and calls for help, but she gets kidnapped too. Maya manages to free them both, and they argue back and forth about Maya being distant ever since she left Oklahoma. Vicky calls Zane and tells him he's got Maya, hoping to claim a cash reward. And as Zane shows up, Maya rigs a gun out of roller skate parts and takes out Vicky's friends. Then, Zane kills Vicky. All of a sudden, neon lights get turned on, and Rob Zombie starts playing as Maya comes out and kicks everyone's asses. It's a pretty wild scene. First she fights them in hand-to-hand combat, and then starts hitting them with skee balls. And eventually, she kills all of them. It's crazy. The fight comes to a dead stop when Zane has a gun on Bonnie, and Maya gets tied up yet again. But right before he kills her, Kingpin calls it off, and they leave. After that, as they both fear Kingpin may still be alive, Henry agrees to work with Maya. Afterward, she returns to her grandparents' house, only to find Kingpin waiting for her. In episode 4, we go back to 2008. Maya's on a street corner in New York trying to buy ice cream, but the vendor doesn't know she's deaf. The vendor mocks her for a bit, while Kingpin watches from his car. Then, Kingpin drags the vendor down an alley and beats the shit out of him. Back to present time, Kingpin confronts Maya at her grandparents' house. Instead of seeking revenge for taking his eye, Kingpin gifts her with an AI that interprets sign language so that they can communicate better. It's like some shit Tony Stark would have made. And I thought she shot his eye out, but it looks like he still has it. Anyway, he says he wants her to come home with him, then they eat dinner together, and it's super awkward. Following that, Henry tells Maya that he doesn't want to work for Kingpin, but he was basically forced to. Sometime later, the town is setting up for a big powwow at the local fairgrounds. Meanwhile, Maya has yet another vision of Chafa, where it basically looks like she's a descendant of her. And this is probably why her hands glowed on the train. So, Maya begrudgingly goes to reconnect with her grandmother, and she tells her about the visions. Only to find out that the grandmother had visions too, a long time ago. During all this, they show flashbacks of the grandmother giving birth to Maya's mother. And this is the second time in the series that they show boobs. What is going on here, Marvel? Anyway, so the conversation goes bad and Maya storms out. She goes to the casino where Kingpin's been staying and tries to kill him a second time. But she chooses to let him live, and she just leaves town. The finale starts off with Maya as a child taking out a woodpecker with a slingshot. She brings it to her mother and says it fell out of a tree, but the mother pretty much calls bullshit on it. Then, her mom heals the woodpecker with the glowing hands ability. So I guess every female in the family has that? In modern time, Kingpin bumps into Maya's grandmother and finds out that she's related to Maya. Uh-oh. A bit later, everyone is showing up to the fairgrounds for the powwow, along with Zane. Fearing that something happened to her cousin and grandmother, Maya races back to town to her grandmother's house. She finds a new suit that her grandmother made for her, and her mother standing in front of it. Her mother tells her that she's not alone because all of her ancestors echo through her. Oh, and there you go. That's how she got her name, Echo. So the powwow begins, and Echo goes into a barn where she's confronted by Kingpin, who's holding her family hostage. He threatens to kill her family just like he killed her father if she doesn't come home. Then, Zane goes to shoot a rocket at the barn, but Henry kills him. Back in the barn, Echo channels the power of all of her ancestors and wipes out all of Kingpin's henchmen. As he goes to attack her, Echo uses her power to free him from the pain of his past, I guess, and he just decides to leave the powwow. Afterward, Maya returns to her family. Then we get a mid-credit scene of Kingpin deciding to run for mayor. The end. Well, there you go, guys. The Echo series. It was surprisingly pretty good. I know I say that a lot, but I usually go into these Marvel series not knowing what to expect. I liked Maya's character development as she returned to Oklahoma and reconnected with her roots. Also, Kingpin kind of had a character arc, I guess. Well, they did set it up for Spider-Man 4, where he's going to be the mayor. Oh, and how about that Daredevil fight? That was pretty awesome. And that roller rink fight, I think that was the highlight. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one.